Money can never buy freedom because the chains it forges are often stronger than the iron of poverty. And this is why the Stoics believed that true liberty is found only in the mastery of the mind. Imagine standing in the bustling heart of ancient Rome, surrounded by merchants flaunting their wares, senators clothed in purple robes, and generals parading the spoils of conquest, each one appearing powerful and free. Yet the Stoics warned that beneath the glitter of wealth lay invisible chains that bound these men more tightly than any prison. For if your happiness depends on coins that can be lost, if your sense of worth depends on luxuries that can be stolen, or if your peace of mind depends on possessions that fortune may withdraw at any moment, then you are not free. You are enslaved to what you cannot control. Freedom, in the Stoic sense, was not the ability to purchase anything you desire, but the ability to desire only what is within your control, to need less rather than more, and to walk through the marketplace of life unshaken. Whether fortune offers abundance or scarcity, consider Seneca, one of the richest men of his time, who nevertheless wrote letters warning that wealth had the power to corrupt and enslave more than poverty, because luxury seduces the soul into dependence, whispering that comfort is necessary, that pleasure is owed, that possessions define identity. He admitted that wealth could provide comfort, but he reminded himself and his readers that it must be carried lightly, as a traveler carries a cloak, useful in cold weather, but never mistaken for the essence of life itself. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commanding legions and treasures, confessed in his private meditations that gold and power are nothing but distractions, for the grave will strip away all titles and all fortune, leaving only the soul's character, and therefore he urged himself to live each day as if wealth were nothing but smoke passing through the fingers. Epictetus, once a slave, understood the truth most clearly, for he had no riches, no liberty of body, and yet declared himself freer than emperors, because his thoughts were his own, his judgments belonged to him, and no master could command his will. Imagine him standing in a simple room, teaching students that the man who fears poverty is already poor, while the man who accepts loss with calm is already rich, because no external force has power over his soul. This is the Stoic paradox that challenges the modern world as much as the ancient. Wealth cannot buy freedom, but discipline over desire can. Look at today's cities filled with lights, advertisements, and endless goods, where people labor long hours, chained by debt, consumed by envy, chasing luxuries that never satisfy, and see how the illusion of freedom through money often becomes a prison of constant striving. The Stoics would tell us that the one who has learned to govern desire is free even in scarcity, while the one who cannot govern desire is a slave even in abundance. They would invite us to picture two men, one who owns palaces but trembles at every rumor of financial loss, sleepless with fear of losing status, and another who owns little but sleeps soundly, grateful for what is at hand, unafraid of loss, untempted by envy. Which of these men is truly free? The Stoics did not call for the rejection of money, but for its proper place, as a tool to be used with wisdom and moderation, never as a master. They taught that wealth should serve justice, generosity, and duty, but never desire, vanity, or pride. Money can provide bread, shelter, or medicine, but it cannot provide courage, wisdom, or peace, and therefore it cannot provide freedom. Freedom arises when a man knows that his happiness rests in his reasoned choice, his disciplined will, his acceptance of what he cannot control, and his mastery of what he can. Picture Marcus Aurelius in his tent on the frontier, reminding himself by candlelight that he must be ready to lose wealth, fame, and even life itself, and yet remain unshaken because his true self is untouched by fortune. That is the Stoic image of freedom, not the freedom to indulge in every desire, but the freedom from being enslaved by desire itself. In our modern lives, how many live in golden cages, chained not by iron, but by mortgages, debts, and comparisons, forever running toward a mirage that retreats with every step. The Stoics would remind us that the richest man is not he who has the most, but he who needs the least. To understand why money cannot buy freedom, imagine losing all you have tomorrow. Would you collapse in despair? Or could you stand calm, ready to rebuild, steady in the conviction that your worth does not vanish with possessions? The man who can say yes to the latter is free, even in loss. The Stoics trained daily in this perspective, practicing voluntary discomfort, sleeping on hard ground, fasting, or wearing simple clothes, not out of hatred for wealth, but to prove to themselves that they could endure without it, that they were masters of fortune rather than its slaves. By rehearsing loss, they gained freedom from fear, and by mastering desire, they gained freedom from longing. This is the treasure that no coin can buy, the unshakable wealth of a mind disciplined by philosophy. Money can open doors, but it cannot keep the soul at peace. It can provide shelter, but it cannot protect against fear. It can grant pleasures, but it cannot cure discontent. Freedom comes not from what we own, but from how we think. The Stoic secret lies in this simple but difficult truth. Liberty is not purchased, but practiced. It is the art of needing less, of governing oneself, of standing firm while fortune rises or falls. As the ruins of empires remind us, gold crumbles, marble cracks, wealth vanishes, but the soul that has learned to live with discipline walks free even in chains. So ask yourself, as you hear these words, are you rich in possessions, but poor in peace? Or do you possess little yet, walk as a free man within your own mind? For in the end, money will never buy freedom, but freedom can always be found by the one who learns to master himself. True freedom is not about choosing every indulgence, but about refusing to be ruled by any of them. And this is the heart of why Stoics declared that wealth cannot grant liberty. Imagine again the grand houses of Rome, filled with tapestries, servants, and banquets, where the owners appeared powerful, yet trembled at the thought of losing their fortune, constantly suspicious of rivals, envious of others, fearful of change. These men were prisoners of desire, chained not by iron, but by their own cravings, and no sum of gold could purchase release. Now imagine Epictetus, who owned nothing but the clothes on his back, teaching his students that a man is enslaved, not when he lacks possessions, but when he depends on them. And thus the path to freedom lies in independence of thought, in the courage to say, I can endure without. In our modern age, the same truth remains. For many are trapped by endless consumer cycles, upgrading devices, chasing fashions, stretching their lives to pay for luxuries that offer fleeting satisfaction, while anxiety grows and freedom slips further away. The Stoics would remind us that the marketplace cannot sell tranquility, that no shop can stock serenity, and that liberty is the reward of those who discipline their desires. They would invite us to practice gratitude for what we have, to train ourselves to endure the absence of what we crave, and to recognize that every time we master an impulse, we mint a coin of true wealth within the treasury of the soul. Wealth without wisdom is a burden, but poverty with virtue is freedom. When Seneca warned that luxury corrupts the soul, he was not condemning comfort itself, but the false belief that comfort is necessary for happiness. When Marcus Aurelius wrote that death comes to all, rich and poor alike, he was reminding himself that clinging to possessions is a futile attempt to grasp what cannot be held. To be free is to live as though fortune may take everything except your reason, and to walk calmly, even as the world shifts around you. In this light, money is revealed not as a master, but as a servant, a useful tool when governed, a dangerous chain when obeyed. The Stoic who governs his money is free, while the man governed by his money is a slave, even if he wears a crown. So as you reflect on these words, consider your own life. Are you bound by fear of losing wealth? Do you measure your freedom by the size of your account? Or do you measure it by the strength of your self-control? For the Stoics, the answer is clear, and their wisdom endures across centuries because it points us to a freedom that no thief can steal, no fortune can destroy, and no desire can corrupt. True liberty is found in mastering the self, and that is why money could never buy freedom.